Hi, and welcome to Master Your Fishing. Today I'll be going around 4 different commercial pegs, giving you some good overall advice and also describing what to look for in your tackle. Do you want to be a fishing master? Then join me in just a sec. Let's have a look at the first peg. This is the Arena Lake at Cudmore. It's a donut shaped lake, all uniform width, 25 metres wide, with a variety of stock, but predominantly 3 to 5 pound carp. Coming into winter time, there's a variety of methods that I could employ here, but one that's going to be reliable for me is the waggler. It's going to allow me to fish half to 3/4 of the way across, which due to the temperature of the water decreasing, the fish are naturally going to push away from the bank. And this is going to allow me to do that, and it's going to allow me to target the main stock fish, which is the carp. The type of tackle that I'd employ here, bearing in mind the time of year, the way the fish are feeding, is scaled down waggler tactics, and that for me will be an insert waggler, light lines, light hook lengths, and because of that I'm going to couple that with a 13-foot waggler rod to allow me to cast the distance with as small a waggler as I can, and also the longer rod helps cushion not only the strike but when you're playing the fish. Generally speaking, you can get away with lighter gear with the longer rod. So that's how I'd approach this peg. Let's go and have a look at peg 2. This is Drumble Lake at Cudmore. It's a typical commercial fishery, a couple of islands, mixed bag of species, and this particular peg has got open water where I'm going to employ pole tactics here today. And the reason for that is I've got the option to fish for not only carp, but the other species in the fishery. So 13, 14 metres, I'm going to feed maggots, casters, and catch a mixed bag of roach, skimmers, potentially barbel, whatever comes along really. But I've also got the option to fish for carp, so I'll have a separate long line with pellets. So 2 open water swims, find out what species are feeding and present on the day, and swap between the 2, and then later on I'll put a line down the edge to catch some big carp which I know inhabit this lake. Now the sort of tackle we're after, when you're fishing long pole for silverfish, you're going to need a stiff light pole, and that's where my XZ65 comes in. Can't beat it for that style of fishing. But once the fish start coming down the edge, where I'm going to need to fish stronger elastics, that's when I'll bring in my Margin M2 into play. There's no point risking your sort of expensive top of the range pole when you don't have to at short range, so I'll always bring that with me in the bag. In terms of rigs, there'll be a margin rig set up, a shallow caster rig, a on the deck silverfish rig, and then an on the deck pellet rig. So there's actually quite a few rigs and tackle to set up on this type of swim, but to get the best of an open water peg you have to be adaptable, and that's why I'd do that. Let's go have a look at the third lake and the tactics and tackle that I'd employ there. This is the third lake. It's the Moors Canal here at Cudmore, named after a great local match angler and a close friend of mine, Jeff. As you can see, it's a typical canal, and it's going to follow a typical canal profile of a shallow ledge in the margins, down to the middle 4 or 5 foot, and again a shallow margin at the far bank. Now I know that this lake is stocked with a whole mixture of small silverfish as well as F1s and carp, and the one tactic that's always seen me good on these type of venues is fishing short and with maggots and fishing for everything that swims. So basically I'm going to have 2 rigs set up today, fishing soft elastics, either a 6 to 8 solid or a 6 to 10 hollow, just to make sure that I don't bump any fish off and I land everything that I hook. And I'm going to throw maggots and fish on the bottom and shallow, like I said, to catch everything that swims and everything that sort of comes into the swim in each scenario. So there'll be a point in the match where I may catch shallow eyed, and then there'll be a point in the match where I'll have to go on the bottom, and there may come a point in the match at the end when I'm catching F1 shallow. So that's the sort of rigs that I'd employ on this. Now in terms of keep nets on these commercials, it's worth at this point noting that you need to make sure that you're adhering to the limits if using keep nets in a match. The majority of commercials have around a £50 limit that if you go over, you can end up losing your weight of fish for that amount as a penalty. I use the Star Grip 50. They're absolutely perfect for this. Not only are they not too big, so you're not carrying too many nets around, they're the perfect size for 50 pounds of fish. Check them out, they're well worth a look. So now let's go and have a look at the fourth and final swim. This is the fourth and final lake here at Cudmore today. As you can see, it's an open water venue, but I have got the option of an island. Now, given the weather conditions here today, overcast, I've got a side wind, and the fact that I'm predominantly fishing for carp, there are many tactics that I could employ, but the one I'm going to pick up will be the method feeder. We'll start with the rod. I'd look at an XZ65 feeder rod, 10 foot. That length allows me to cast decent distances that we're going to be faced with today. Not only am I going to be chucking to the island, but I'd also have an open water swim as well. Line, we're going to be looking at an 8-pound line. You don't want too light a line for fishing the method feeder. You want something strong, robust, with little stretch in it. So a nice, decent 8-pound line is a must. Tackle wise, it's very simple on the method feeder. I'm going to employ a 20 gram, a gripper bead to attach a hook length, and then a band and pellet hook length, which will be a KM2 size 14. Around the feeder, I'm going to be fishing micro pellets and ground bait, and on the hook will either be pellets, mini boilies, or possibly maggots. And that's how I'd approach this peg today to try and get the best from it. So that brings us to a close of Series 1. Now, there's nothing better than knowledge, so get yourself acquainted with your fishery as much as possible. Speak to the bailiff, anybody who fishes it, anybody in a tackle shop, and work out what species are present and what tactics are used to catch them. The other thing to remember is, if your chosen method isn't working, is to adapt as quickly as you can and change to the correct method on the day. So join us for Series 2, where we'll be going into greater detail on these methods and be showing you new tactics that will help you catch more. We're talking some real fine tuning, the difference between being Matchman of the Year or just being in the running. Thanks for watching, and remember, master your fishing, master those fish.